My name's Gary Gurr. I'll be hosting the office hours today, our regular Monday office hours. And Paul's going to be doing the driving with documentation. As if we have to bring up documentation, we'll bring that up. Actually, I think we'll go ahead and do that part now. Last Wednesday, I think right after the Q&A, they released the Flash 233. And that one, if you didn't get it, really has to do with the fact that they made the SSID matching tool available, and the directions were in Flash 231, but it kind of just repeats them again. So that tool is available for you now, and all the steps are listed right in the bottom half of that for you. And then another thing is we do our regular updates, usually Tuesdays. And they're going in tomorrow. So I have a list of those. I'm no Angela, but I tried to put together what I could find. And these are four that I think that I could find from this build. There may be more. And we have to say that, hey, Joe, that these are slated to go in, but you never know last minute if something happens if they don't go in, or there could be additional ones added that they fix and they get it in time. But these are the ones slated to go in tomorrow's update. And I know that these are pretty big, heavy hitters, so it'll be good to get these fixed. And I'm not going to go through each one of those right now, but it's up on the screen for you. So we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, Martha, did you have anything you wanted to add before I get started?
I do not have any announcements at this time.
Okay. So how this works, I was just looking at the questions. How this works is, for those of you that may be new, we ask you to type your questions into the chat box. We ask you that you number your questions, Q1, Q2, Q3. We always go through the Q1s first, and if there's time at the end, we go back through Q2s and Q3s or whatnot. Most of the time, we're successful in that. I know the last Q&A, we actually weren't able to get to the Q2s because the Q1s ran the whole hour. And if that happens, we just ask that you just go ahead and log tickets. And on that note, we're getting a lot of tickets, so please be patient with us and we will get back to your tickets as fast as we can. And the rules for the questions is, I would ask if you could, and one of the reasons we kind of ran over last week was there were a lot of really long questions, and it really takes a lot of time to read them out. If you can, please keep your questions brief, just to the point, not a lot of details, because those might be better suited for a ticket that can be researched, and it will allow us to get through more questions during this office hours and the Q&A. If you've already asked or you already have a service desk ticket in, please continue working with the service desk agent. We don't want to repeat the same issue here on this Q&A. And with that, I'll go ahead and get started with the questions. So the first question is from Denise. Move my window over here. For ELTBDs, how often does CALPADS TOMS data extract run? If nightly, exactly what time is the snapshot taken? We notice some TBDs loaded on Friday are not in the LPAC as of this morning. As far as I know, it is nightly, of course. What time that happens, Martha? I don't have a clue what time that.
I do not have that time either.
But it is supposed to be nightly. I know once in a while there's a hiccup, and for whatever reason, it's 48 hours instead of 24 hours. So if you do notice it's not getting updated after so much days go by, definitely put a ticket in and they can investigate that. Nathan asks, regarding the initial LPAC, I have 5 students who have SSIDs and the language fluency is marked as not yet determined. But when I go to my TOMS to run the initial LPAC eligibility report, it shows 0 students. Regarding CALPADS, is there any reason this data might be getting, for lack of a better word, held up? I'm not sure if there's anything going on right now.
Yeah, there's certain criteria that you have to have that we pull into the extract, right? So it has to have a TBD, a language other than English, right?
Right.
Currently enroll or not, have an enrollment. So I don't know, Nathan, if you've checked off those things. I'm sure there's some other stuff, and I don't know if we have that written down anywhere of what are the key things we look for in the extract to pull into the Tom's extract.
I believe you also have to have populated the demographic information so you can get ahead of yourself by enrolling the student and submitting their TBD status. But if you don't populate that student information record, they won't be pulled for Tom's either.
Good point. And a
That's neat.
complete SIMF record, right? You know, just because you might have one, it might not be complete. So take a look at all of the fields required in the SIMF.
Okay. Joanne asks, is the SPRG 0070 still in error? The August 12th CALPADS weekly update stated that there was a fix on August 11th for triggering on code 11, but we still have 928, which we had before the patch. Does this mean there are true errors? If they are, how do we find? Okay, so I did just log an error actually late Friday night. I relogged a error for this SPRG 0070 6299, and Paul has it up on the screen there.
So we did fix it. It was a different scenario, and then
Right.
we found this data scenario.
So it's more than likely related to that, Joanne, but you never know. There could be some that are actually valid, depending on what it is. So if you have questions about specific ones that don't seem like they're making sense when you look at the error and the student involved, put in a ticket and we can take a deeper look.
But the error that we have right now, it's very specific to Title I records, and that they're triggering on previous years, and you're not able to fix them. It's legit. You do have multiple Title I records open. Unfortunately, you can't fix them. So that's what we have to try to figure out how we're going to help you with that error.
From Richard, a super old student record is missing earlier ELAS from prior school, giving you an error.
Send in a ticket.
Yeah, send in a ticket because we'll probably have to look at that. I know I've seen tickets where students graduated in 2007 and we were getting errors on them, but those are kind of seem like they're like one-off cases, but we would definitely want to take a look more into that, Richard. Kara, I know I've seen it before, but I couldn't find it today. Where can I find the definitions for the PSTS codes?
Code sets.
I'm opening the code sets now, but it's
Yeah.
taking a minute.
And there's different codes,
There it
right?
goes.
What's the field called? Do you recall?
The field?
Yeah, what's the particular element that is in the code sets? Because there's a variety of fields in the PSTS file.
Oh, right.
I just doing post-secondary
The
status.
status,
That's what it is.
post-secondary status. So
So
hopefully
the
that's what
answer
you're
is
looking for.
it's in the CalPADS code set under code set name post-secondary status.
There you go. Thanks, Paul. And you can see the code values and the name and the definition. So all the information's there for you. And then at 3 o'clock or 3:02, Paul posted the Flash 233 link in case you don't have that. Terry has a long question here, and I guess it's one question with 4 parts.
Yeah, but if Joe's not here, Terry,
I heard
would.
him on.
Oh, okay.
I'm here, Martha.
You
Sorry.
ready, Joe? I'll read this out. Let's see where we go.
Which one is that, Gary?
It's the one at 3:02 from Terry.
Oh, sorry.
Wasco.
I came in a little bit. I
Okay.
jumped out. So if you could, do you mind reading
Okay.
it?
Yeah, let's see where we can get it. It's a pretty long one. So follow up from last week's SPED question. We have several C to Bs.
Initial, isn't that what
Right.
are the?
The
Oh, okay.
part C
C-
initial and
okay.
B. Yeah. Okay.
They do not have SSIDs. They signed consent over the summer and will be getting their CalPADS enrollment. They will be 3 in September. We have reviewed Flash 207 and are still not quite sure how to enroll them until they turn 3. We have come up with several scenarios between the 3 or 4 of us. Oh, and that's what these numbers are, the different scenarios. scenario 1 was enroll starting our first day of school with the primary enrollment, grade toddler, then no show until they turn 3. Once they turn 3, add a new enrollment with our first day of school and delete the previous enrollment. The next scenario was enroll starting our first day of school with a primary enrollment, grade level of toddler, and leave the enrollment open until they turn 3, have their IEP. Once they turn 3, add a new enrollment with our first day of school and delete the previous enrollment. Another option was enroll starting our first day of school with a code 50, grade level of toddler, and then no show until they turn 3. Once they turn 3, add a new enrollment with our first day of school and delete the previous enrollment. So those are the 3 choices that they came up with.
And all those are actually all acceptable. Either one is actually, I mean, I don't see the issue there because like, but the question is on CalPADS Flash 07, just to clarify, there's 2 options there, right? Either if you submit it right now, then you have to do those N470 no shows. And obviously the kid would be in a toddler mode or in an infant mode, right? At that point, regardless, you still have to no show it anyway to begin with, as long as you submit the IEP, correct? So if the option 2 is the one that you want to do, then the ones that you specified as options are all, not, I mean, they could get in, I mean, those are,
valid.
Discretion. Yeah, they're all valid. I mean, it's all dependent on you now to how to kind of like, reflect that.
All right, thanks, Joe. From Linda, the weekly update said that the SPRG 070 was fixed, however, still have errors. So we talked about that up above. From Vonda, is there an issue with SDNR today? I just tried to upload an SDNR file and it is failing without errors or record counts. It's failing without errors. I uploaded this file before, failed, corrected the errors in the file itself, and now the same file is just completely failing. Do I need to rerun this file? So if it's failing, then definitely it's not posting or whatever. And if you just keep rerunning and it's failing, most of the time when I see those, there, if you're using a template or an Excel file, then I usually put it in a text format. I found where sometimes there's hidden characters in Excel, and by putting it in text, I can see those and clear them out. But usually there's some kind of corruption in the file if it's failing. If it's failed every time, that's probably what it is. But if you'd like to submit a ticket, put my name on it. I don't mind looking at it and try to find out what's wrong with the data, why it's failing. Linda, can you give me clarification on what the columns are in the total school section on the 3.14 and 3.19? There are not column titles, and columns don't seem to match up with those above.
So Paul's going to the report mapping section of the user manual. And we're going to take a look at the columns.
And I'm sorry, which field am I looking up?
So
columns.
we're looking for what
Total
columns are in the
school
total
section.
school section.
So the row, it's a row called total schools. We don't map it.
Okay, we only map the columns, the totals.
But I think somewhere we do describe what we put in there. Maybe it's not here, but it might be in the report specs.
Usually the totals for everything is an unduplicated count of stuff.
What's the driving count on that report? A CTE. So
non-completer. Oh, those are just participants. Yeah.
So when it does the total school section, it's probably the number of non-completer participants. And so if a kid perhaps were at 2 different schools, I think it only
Counts
What-
unduplicated. Yeah, if that's what this whole thing is getting at, that those grand totals a lot of times will not, if you add up all the individual totals at different schools, they will not add up to the grand total, because that grand total is unduplicated, and a lot of times you'll have students or even staff on some reports that are at multiple sites, and they're counted at each site. And when those subtotals, but in the grand total, they're unduplicated. So most of the times don't add up the subtotals to expect them to equal the grand total.
I mean, because we don't want to count a student 3 times that they're a participant. They're a
Right.
participant once.
Exactly.
However, each school that they participated in wants to get credit that they have X amount of participants, right? But that grand total is the unduplicated total
Yeah.
number of students in the district.
That's a good point, because if you remember, the participants are just students enrolled in CTE courses. So a student may not be in a pathway and still be a participant. That's
Exactly.
also why they would be counted in multiple different pathways. If you took a keyboarding course, might be general, or a graphic design course could be a different pathway alignment.
Good point. Okay, Richard, you have a question too. Come back to that one. Shelley has question 1. I have been on the Monday, Wednesday call. I haven't been on the Monday, Wednesday call in a while, but I know that we are able to certify at this point from the flash. I still have known issues for all of my end of years. I am getting extremely worried about certifying. What is the plan? Do you know?
The plan is you keep working at it and clear the errors that you are able to clear. And if you are, for example, the SPRG 70, while we may have a defect, it's a very, very narrow data scenario. So even though it may be listed on the known issues, you need to understand if that particular defect impacts you in your data, because some of that, you may have that error, but your data may be legit, that you have to fix it. So evaluate what's remaining, continue to work on it. The Department of Ed is working on a communication to let everybody know what their plans are for the deadline, the upcoming deadline. We don't know yet. So just try to keep working at it. Look at your reports while you're waiting to feel confident that what you do show on the reports are, reasonable and are accurate to the best of your ability. That's all we can do right now.
Yep. Okay, question from Mary. A high school SPED student is done with school and is not expected to enroll anywhere else. I want to exit the student from my district with whatever code, and he is no longer enrolled with us in CALPADS. After this, can our special education data system continue to post final data to CALPADS when we no longer have ownership of the student? The exit date and the final information, whatever that is.
You got to have ownership, right?
Yep.
So if they're going to post a meeting after the kid exited, it won't go in because you no longer have the kid after that exit date. So you got to coordinate.
Okay, Swen has a question. Why are new certification snapshots taking up to 35 hours to show up? Jobs post quickly, but new snapshots are as slow as molasses.
Well, Sue-Ann, we did have some things that they fine-tuned last week. So we think we're caught up in it, and we're hoping people start getting them in a regular basis, starting today. Hopefully, every time you make updates, you'll see it the next day, not sooner. So from this week on, if you're not seeing it in that frequency, let us know, because they have been trying to make some improvements to the performance of the revisions.
Jasmine asked, has there been a change with the ability to manually enter courses such as college courses? I can successfully post a CRSE file, but then cannot find it in the course data list. We had a issue where things weren't showing up. I don't know if that's been resolved yet or not.
That had to do with the term, right?
Yeah.
Semester 1, semester 2, but I thought that was fixed a while ago.
And so you're saying you CRSE. I'm assuming are you meaning CRSE or C? For end of year, it would be CRSC. So that's one thing to check to make sure if they're not showing up and you're expecting CRSE, make sure, because if for end of year, it's defaulting to CRSC. So you have to set that little filter to CRSC. I'm sorry, E, if you're looking for E courses. But
And also, to see it on the student, you need to have the CRSC and the SCSC. Both of those files have to be there, records. You can see the CRSC without the student's completion, but I just want to make sure that you know that they're a pair.
Nathan, you have a question too? We'll come back to that. Daniela, over the weekend, I got a new end of year 3 snapshot for one of my schools. They went from 0 fatal errors to 300 fatals, all CERT 128s. Every student has their stats submitted in early July, and the stats records are still in CALPADS. No idea why the CERT 128s randomly appeared this weekend. Is this a new issue?
We have no reason or no understanding why this happens, but intermittently, we do have revisions that somehow the count gets corrupted and we just request another revision and it goes back. So if you went from 0 to 300, it's likely it's one of those glitches that we just need to get a new revision for you. So Daniela, send us a ticket and let us know what the LAA is.
Okay, from Suzanne, end of year 3 is now showing a SIMP 453 missing parent highest ed level for newly enrolled students during the 22-23 school year. Will these errors drop off anytime soon? I think that's one of the known issues.
One we're working on for tomorrow, yeah. Have to wait for a refresh after tomorrow's release goes in.
Callie asks, timeline for SELPA certification of end of year 3 and 4 seems physically impossible. Realistic timeline would be final updates released August 23rd. LEAs have updated snapshots so they can certify on the 24th SELPA reviews, so it takes no longer than sends corrections to districts on August 25th. The district possibly can't update info on the 26th. Then certification is likely late at the SELPA level. Our SELPA has 30 LEAs, and I'm the only person who reviews and certifies the data, meaning we may have to certify late due to CALPADS and known issues for the SPED, SRV, and PSTS, extending almost to the deadline. Is the deadline going to be pushed back? Is there some way of compel the leadership to make this happen? As Martha mentioned, they are in discussions on this. It's very likely that this deadline, I think they've already said the deadline is going to be pushed. It's just a matter of what they're pushing it to.
And, they are aware that SELPAs need to have time to review reports, but I would prepare yourself that you may not have the luxury of 2 weeks, to review it. So if you feel you need that additional time, you should start looking at some of their reports now, trying to see if, their data is in the ballpark of what you're expecting. So that when they finally approve that you can see, oh, they added a couple more, or, it's dramatically different or it isn't. So, which LEAs you want to go back to and dive into deeper.
Okay, Terry says she's having a problem pulling the report 5.7. Will I have to pull it from the ODS, and will it be up to date as of 8/13? It's funny, I have a ticket. I was working on this report. It depends. It's if you have a large district, it's not coming up, and even
Irvine is fairly large.
Yeah, so large. So if you could try selecting 1 or 2 schools at a time and see if that works for you, but it is from the ODS.
And we are writing it up as a
Yes.
defect, Terry, because it should render quickly for any size LEAs, and we know how important the foster student data is. So
it's on my list. Terry, another Terry has a Q2. Rebecca, end of year 1 3.10 does not reflect grade level standards data. Although our CRC file posted with that data, it is completely blank in CALPADS. I couldn't find this in the known issues. Sounds familiar, but
it is. I thought on the SIMP it got fixed, but it surfaced on the STAS or SCSC one of the S
Yeah, it
files.
sounds familiar. I can't remember.
So on the known issues list, right. Oh, that's implemented. So you got to go down to the new known issues, Paul.
Yeah, there's still nothing on the 3.10 though. No,
Nothing.
no results.
It's not the 3.10, it's the IVR 9. Isn't that what we're talking about? Oh. maybe
Well,
not.
it's the grade level standards
you're right,
data.
sorry.
Yeah.
I was on our
Um,
question too.
It sounds so familiar though. Rebecca, maybe put a ticket in, and I may already have a ticket on this. I haven't got to, but I remember there was something where something's blank. Okay, from Yadira, can you please guide me to the best video on how to upload our SNR files? I tried the ODS SNR files. My removals rejected 3 SSIDs. My exits files posted and my updated file failed with 2 fatals. So we don't have the video for the new SSID tool yet.
Nate did some recordings. Do you recall, Nate, if you have this covered in one of your recent recordings? Have you been
Under-
when we did the post redesign?
Under what's new, in the CalPADS user manual and the top navigation, Paul, scroll down, and I think we have a section for SSID assignment, which is how to upload your SNR file. Right
There
right
it is.
there.
Oops, there you go. So under what's new.
If you're triggering errors, though, just submit a ticket and we can help you.
Mary, I see you have a question too. Maribel, will the deadline be extended? We've talked about that. Richard asked, is there an insight to SPED 432? We're hoping tomorrow. Jan, problem 36 to IVR 009 for previously allowed special characters is marked as fixed. I think that we still have an issue with that.
Front file type.
Yeah. Oh, Terry said she did break it into several reports and it worked, but we are going to log a bug. That's, like I said, it's on my list. Letitia, is the SPRG 0254 still an issue of 9 fatal errors? I believe it is still an issue.
Hey, Gary, can you go back to Jan's 312 on problem 6036? She's saying that that's still in the SSID matching tool, the special characters. So that's something new. So Jan, send in a ticket so we can log it, because that is a separate feature. It's not one of the record types. So, well, it is in SENR, but how the SSID matching tool digests it is different than the file submission.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're on 314.
Okay.
Deborah Reynolds.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Can we still enter courses into CalPADS manually? I was adding a college course on Friday and the course record posted. I tried to look up the course on Friday and today to add the student question, cannot find the course. Well, you can add them manually. You're the second person in the report that you can't find the course, though. Should be able to.
Send in a ticket so we can get it.
Yeah.
Thought we had something like that though. Here, look at problem ticket 6278. Oh, that's the whole container though.
The whole container.
The SC container is missing. I don't know if that's what this is referring to.
278. Oh, and that's the student course completion.
Which is what she's saying, she can't find it, right? So it could be because the container's gone. It's not there.
Could be related.
So send us a ticket and we'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
Fabiola asked about the deadline, which we talked about. HK, I have 2 private school students who are on IEPs instead of ISPSs due to settlement agreements. I was told to report them as primary enrollments with my district's CDS code based on Flash 167. This resolved the SPED errors for this end of year. However, they are in my 2023 cohorts and this will be an issue. How should I report them since they are not attending any of my high schools?
So HK, you did send in a ticket on this and I had it assigned to Brandy. And I don't know if she's been around to work on any of our tickets, but I added Joe to it as well. So that you kind of have to know how the cohort, what the specifications are for belonging to a cohort or not to answer that. So I think unless Paul or Gary wants to take this on, I say
No.
leave it to the ticket so they can take a look at your data better. Because I think, you know, the fact that it's in your 2023 cohort, we have to confirm that, you know, it belongs in that cohort or it doesn't belong. So a lot of data that we have to look at.
Hope says the SSID lookup tool is not finding clear 100% matches. Are you aware? Yes, Hope, we are aware. I actually logged a new defect on the SSID lookup tool for not finding matches. I was able to find them, interestingly enough, not through the tool, but when I did the old-fashioned way, right into CalPads, looking it up through that way, I was able to find the students. So that proved that there was something going on with the lookup tool. Dominic asks, to follow up on Mary Masters Q1, the SPED eligibility doesn't end until the student is found ineligible, withdraws, or ages out. If the student doesn't enroll in school after age 18, the LA is still responsible for offering FAPE until eligibility ends. How should we exit the student when they turn 22 in the SEDS, since code 73 is a CalPADS reportable code?
I think we have a specific code, right? When they turn 22. Joe, do you know off the top of your head what the
Yeah,
enrollment
so I think what he's saying is that we retired the max.
we
was that-
did on the SPED
yeah,
record. You can't
the
put
SPED
the exit
record.
on the SPED record, but we
Right.
have a comparable one.
on the SNR record. That's correct,
Yeah.
Martha.
Do you off the top of your head know what that code is? Because I don't, unless Paul's working on getting that code up.
Let's just look at the file specification. I mean,
It'd
code
be in
sets.
the code sets.
Right, correct.
It's loading.
But
Waiting.
I would have thought you keep it open.
Well, I accidentally closed it when I moved it off screen.
There it is.
So it'd be a student exit. So it's like the
Max
Yeah.
age or
no, not those.
No.
It's the student exit category.
if you scroll down
I
a
have
little
them
bit
both up.
further there, here you go.
I thought there had to do with some aging. Because they're not transfers.
Hmm.
So there's nothing in the E's for exit.
Just the prior special ed completer, died, no known enroll, and mid-year update. And then, of course, the secondary and year-end stuff.
I'm sorry, can you go back to the exit on the 73? Did we actually retire that? I don't think we did.
no,
No,
it's there.
73 is still available.
Oh, okay. So it's still max age on 73. That's what I was trying to say. So, I mean, if you're a graduate with a high school diploma, that's different. So that's still inactive. That's still in play, just to clarify.
Okay.
But to follow up here, in order to report, you may have a SEDS record still in CalPads, and then if you want to update it like 3 years later to say now they've maxed out, you need to have an enrollment to update that SED record. You can't just update a SED record if you don't have ownership of it. So if you exit them in 2022 and then 2 years later in 2024 you want to exit them, you have to have an enrollment to correspond with it. Hopefully that's not confusing. But you always have to have ownership in order to update the data, add records.
Okay, so and you have a question too. Doug has a question. Just wanted you to be aware that the end of year 1 reports 3.10 and 3.11 will not create reports. Also, the end of year 2, the 5.2 report shows 0 students.
So does that mean it won't render? Your 3.10 and 3.11 doesn't render when you say will not create reports?
That's what I'm thinking it means.
Or is it that it doesn't
spin?
download as Excel, PDF, whatever?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could go either way. I'm not sure what was intended in the question.
Yeah. And 5.2, 0 students. Haven't had that happen for a long time. So
We might need a ticket, Doug. At 3:28, Paul posted a link to the post-process redevelopment primer. Ethan has a question. Martha keeps suggesting we start reviewing CERT reports now, even for LAs with over-triggering CDDs, and then do that review again later once the CDDs are fixed. This is not a reasonable suggestion. Some of us are trying to support double-digit counts of LEAs. There are 42 certification reports for end of year. Do you have any idea how long it takes to pull 42 certification reports for 20 separate LEAs, only to have them pull them again in some unknown number of days after the CDDs get fixed? We need the deadline extension announced. I'm not sure what that acronym is for, ASAFP, so that we can project plan here. This is ridiculous.
I offer suggestions, Ethan, if it doesn't work for your environment. Not everybody has the volume that you guys have. And while there may be 42 certification reports, don't look at all of them. Look at the ones that have the aggregates. And if you spot a particular report that is way off in numbers, then you have a head start that, it's not maybe the CDD that's causing that there could be something faulty with your data. So it's just offering you a suggestion. If you feel like you need to somehow keep working and try to get ahead, that would be an strategy. I understand that for folks that have a lot of the CELPAs that have a lot of LEAs, it is a lot of work. So we know how long it takes to render reports. We feel the pain, not as much as you when you have, 40 of them, but just trying to help you guys in your tickets. We used to be able to probably answer tickets, I don't know, within 5 to 10 minutes. And now it's taking us like 30 minutes or more per ticket to get back to you guys because of how long it takes us to access the data. So we're not quite in the same boat that you are. I was just offering a suggestion so that it could lessen your frustration as we get closer to the deadline.
Kelly has a question in response to the answer to her Q1 question regarding the CELPA review. Do we have any recommendations for review in lieu of the 16.7 and 16.8 comparison reports? The known issues still show these as medium severity issues with no ETA on the fix. Yes, unfortunately, those reports are not as high as priority as getting the end of year bugs fixed. But Joe always has something to say about that. The 16.7 and 16.8 are there for monitoring, but well, I can't remember exactly what you said, Joe.
They're functa
Yeah.
person.
So 16, yes, that is absolutely correct, Gary and Martha. So 16.7 and 16.8 report are actually for monitoring purposes, like checking the profiles of all your students for their in comparison to their timeliness of reporting with their annuals or triennials and initials as well. So 16.1.2.3 are the ones that we rely on, obviously, for for certification or double checking who are in students that are in our LAA.
Okay. And Kim asked a similar question. Before we certify IDIVIA, most districts want to know their compliance numbers, and we're using the monitoring reports 16.7 and 8, but they're missing students. This means we cannot confirm that records are overdue in CALPADS. Any idea when these reports not missing students will not be missing students, so we know what we are certifying? I'm not sure when those are going to get fixed.
They can't confirm records that are overdue in CALPADS. So is that important, Joe, for what you just said on report 16.1 and 2 and 3?
For the certification, no. That's why we as you could tell, we haven't gotten any of the timeliness or the DINCs that we call that comes out from our division for monitoring purposes, because that monthly DINCs that are still still a working in progress, as you could tell, because there's a lot of bugs in the 16.7, 16.8. It shouldn't prevent you from certifying from what you see in the 16.1.2.3 reports that are respectively the certification reports, and it's not going to affect your 16.7, 16.8 monitoring. It's those are two different reports and two different purposes that we use those reports for. Again, as a reminder, 16.7, 16.8 are for monitoring purposes. Those are tools or reports for you to aid you in actually, monitoring the timeliness. But again, as I mentioned to you, right now we haven't gotten out those reports that are coming usually monthly or periodically every quarter, I say right now, because of the issues that are confounded with those reports right now. However, it doesn't preclude you from monitoring your students, because you still, at the end of the day, you have to rely on your actual SED system, as you know, for really monitoring the timeliness, because obviously your SED systems has all the students, and they have those reports as well available for you to double check whether your students are their meetings are held on time, pretty much. Thanks.
Thanks, Joe. Tammy asks, I have an error synth 452 for a student that was last enrolled with us in 2013. Is this still a known issue? 452, I think it is an issue. Oh, it says it was fixed.
If I'm not mistaken, I escalated a 452 this morning in its PMQ. Let me.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
I think 452 we're still working on.
Is that one that may have been fixed, but they still had issues with it? I can't. Your Windows.
Sorry, I
go.
escalated a 453 this morning, not a 452.
Okay. Well, Tammy, we may need to take it on that just so we can dig into it again. Mika has a question. When a teacher is on leave of absence for the entire 22-23 school year, can we have the contracted long-term sub to be the teacher of record for the 22-23 school year? I believe that's the one that we would be using, the SSID number 4. A lot of people are seconding Ethan's comments, which we understand, Ethan. Ed is saying you need an enrollment to update the SPED with the code 73. Use non-AD enrollment set. Oh, he's giving Dominic feedback. And that takes us down to the bottom and their Q2s.
Actually, Jasmine's Q2 is a response to her Q1.
Oh, okay. When entering college courses manually, I select course completion as the submission type, not course enrollment. Is that what determines whether it's posted as a CRSE or a CRSC? I select completion, but the file is posting as the CRSE instead of CRSC. When you're uploading the file type is what determines that. So you either put CRSE or CRSC in the first column. Make sure that it's CRSC for end of year.
It sounds like that she did. I select course completion as the submission type.
Okay, oh, okay, for when she uploads it. But it's posting as a CRSE, that's what doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
We want to take a look at this. Something is, it shouldn't work like that. I think there might be something different going on. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to the Q2s. And first Q2 is from Richard. Why in every submission do I get nagged for ethnicity data for preschoolers? Required in the SIMP record?
Are you getting an error, Richard? Our brains are very full right now that we can't remember all of the validations, nor, you know, when it's required or not. But I think that
I think it's required for preschoolers.
Yeah, just because you have to have a complete SIMF record, and
yeah.
demographics is the race ethnicity is an important part of that.
Nathan's question 2, when will the video explaining how to use the matching tool be available?
After Martha says it's okay, I'm still looking at it. I'm sorry. I'm hoping
question,
today, hopefully early tomorrow at the latest, Nathan.
Terry's question 2, is the IVR 09 a known issue? I'm getting invalid character in my SIMP file, but I do not see any invalid characters anywhere. That was fixed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're still getting there.
Well, we have an EO3 invalid IVR 9 that's still active, I believe. Yeah, it's inactive right there.
Hers is in the SIMP.
SIMP file. That's the soft file. Well, we might have to add it to that one. But go ahead and put a ticket in, Terry, so we can verify it. Mary's question 2, incoming 9th grade students we never had in the district planned on enrolling with us, but records were requested for another LA in California, so it's not coming. Never attended even one day. Should we use the 160 with the date before school starts? Or should we stick with the N470 with the day before school starts? As per the Q&A, will 160 work if they were never ours prior to this? I thought you were supposed to use the N470.
Yeah, if they've never been there before and they pre-enrolled and they don't show up, that's an N470. If they had been with you previously, you pre-enroll them, then you're stuck with the E140 and the whole SARB drama.
And there's a flash on that. It's an old flash, like 134, I think. Okay. Question 2 from Swan. When we have a mid where it is obvious it is 2 different students, why can't either LEA involved be able to post the mid as different? We should be able to, well, at least one, the LEA that owns it should be able to, but we do have some mid issues out there. And Angela is our mid expert right now.
Could you do it in Legacy, Sue Ann?
No, the focus ID was
Always the rule, because they own it, and there's rules about just, you know, the records we copy over, what records have to get closed out, etc.
So that would be odd that one of the LEAs can't resolve it.
You know, I suppose you could contact the LEA that has the focus ID and let them know, have them close it. or combine it.
Ethan's Q2. I hope you all know that we, the people on these calls, are your biggest supporters and allies. Lord knows that the people we report answer to are not. I think we all demonstrated tremendous patience with your system problems. Many of us have adjusted our entire summer calendars to accommodate you. I strongly urge you to take more seriously the morale of everyone on these calls. By the time we get fed up and let you know about it, it means that quite bad on the ground. You're alienating and losing people you want to and need to in the same direction. I personally, myself, I take everything very serious. We try to lighten a little bit in these Q&As and such, but we understand when we're all going through it. I don't know if Martha wants to say anything else, but
I don't know what's going to make a difference for you, Ethan. So we're trying to be as supportive as we can. We communicate with the department, you guys' frustrations, and that's where we're at.
okay, from Jasmine Q2. Oh, that was the one we already did. Continuing on from Kim, continuing on my Q1 regarding the monitoring reports, I know the 16.7 doesn't keep me from certifying, but what is in our SED system isn't always equal to what is in CALPADS. It's hard to certify data without knowing out our compliance numbers because there will be calculation on annual performance reports based on what we certify.
Any thoughts, Joe?
Yeah, so we are aware of the issues with the 16.7, 16.8, and rest assured that we're also working diligently with your FOMTA consultants and the rest of the team in SPED within the SPED division to mitigate what are issues that would confound you or might actually result into a non-compliance. And rest assured that again, in closely working with your FOMTA consultants, that's the reason why we still don't have those periodic reports. Those 16.7 and 16.8 are actually based not on your certification, but actually it's based on, I'm speaking also with the DINCs that comes out from the monthly CDE usually that is suspended right now or not yet published. I wouldn't call it suspended, but it's based on ODS data, or what do you call the data that you submitted, the most recent data as of the snapshot date. So those two should actually be aligned if you change the dates on the 16.7 and 16.8 with using the filter criteria there. Again, it's not going to prevent you from certifying, and rest assured we're not going to be using the certification report data to actually admonish you on any of those CDE monthly. We are using the clarification that I want to point out there that uses the monthly snapshot as of when we extract the data. So if let's say a student was found non-compliant in, let's say, August, it would show up in that CDE monthly report. Well, guess what? On September data, we'll be using whatever was corrected on the August date, meaning say the latest September data would be in play and would be the one be extracted for your CDE monthly DINCs, or those timeliness reports that are being compared with your 16.7, 16.8 report. Again, we will again, rest assured that we'll take all the feedbacks that we got from this Q&A, and we'll definitely talk with your FOMTA consultants and with the rest of the FOMTA team who handles a lot of those timeliness compliance issues. Again, please coordinate closely with your FOMTA consultants, and we work hand in hand with them, and rest assured that whatever complaints that you have, they could actually address it and will actually connect with us as well internally to make sure that we're not deciding whether, we're not wrongfully making you non-compliant. Maybe that is the word I'm looking for. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
So Joe, is it safe to say that they could look at their 16.1, 16.2, 16.3 independent of 16.7 and 16.8. And by just looking at 16.1, 2, and 3 on its merits alone and what's on that report, that is sufficient to know if they have accurate data for EOI 4? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I mean, maybe it's better to say that it won't impede your certification. Okay, there's a lot of work to be done right now. There's a lot of work in progress, but specifically the 16.7, 16.8 though, those are monitoring reports again, you know, and those are tools for us, for you actually, not for us, because when we extract the CDE monthly reports, we don't use certified data. We use the most recent one that you submit per month. Okay, so that's the reason why we still haven't released anything yet, because we know that there are errors, or you know, again, there's some we know that 16.7, 16.8 are actually, you know, has some issues with it, and I know that the whole development team are working hard to actually correct it. So we're in that place. I mean, it does not impede your certification. That's the point that we were trying to point across, and you know, hopefully to get that report to be the ones that you should be concentrating and focusing right now, as you know that end of year is about to, you know, and hopefully we have extensions and all that.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, question from Susan. Is the CRSC 123 no CT state course code with CD indicators still an unresolved known error? It is still an unresolved known error, but it is slated to go in tomorrow's update. So after everything updates after tomorrow, new revision, whatever, should be good to go. At 3:48, Joe Callie wrote something. I think it was meant just for you, so I'm not going to read that. I'm not sure if you saw it or not. Mika
Yeah,
has
duly noted, Callie. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Gary.
Sure.
And again, you know, thank you, Callie, for that. And please work with your phone consultants closely. And as I mentioned earlier, we're working with those. We're working closely with your phone consultants to provide the accurate data to use. And again, you know, we're using the monthly one, so it shouldn't impede any of your, you know, what you're certifying for end of year.
Okay. Mika has a question too. When the teacher of record is on a leave of absence, how do we report the teacher of record that is on the leave of absence when the same section has the long-term sub as the teacher of record? Section can only have one teacher of record.
I think that's why Brandy always advocates for teacher of record is teacher of record, regardless of whether they're on leave for a day or 5 years. You know, if you have them enrolled and you would normally assign them to that course, they're the teacher of record. But if they're on leave, then they get the, is it 6018 assignment code? Yeah, the 6018 assignment code for being on leave.
Thanks, Paul.
You're just going to have to pick one because you're reporting the course completion, right? So the course data and what the student completed. The teacher's just there to provide a seed. So there's no credentialing or anything like that going on here. So either one is fine. We need the teacher of record for fall 2. It's not so important for end of year 1.
That's true. Jasmine said that she does have a ticket 2675596. I'll write that down. So we'll take a look at that. And Kara is talking to Callie. Corey has a question 1. I agree with the comments that the 16.7, okay, the 16.7 and 16.8 are vital to assist the determination of whether or not the end of year 4 is accurate, especially on the SEPL level. SPED Ed data has to be checked far more than just clearing certain CDDs and looking over the snapshots. We use the 16.7 and 8 as an important part of the verification process. I don't think it's understood how critical these reports operating correctly is to our verification certification process. So Joe already has that information. and we'll follow
And,
up.
and again, thank you very much, Kara. Duly noted again what I mentioned earlier from Cali's point of view. We're not, we're going to use this as a point to reference and closely monitor what's going on. Unfortunately, we, as you can see, there's a lot of issues confounding right now, and we need to focus one thing at a time. And that's the reason why, we need to work closely together. I know it's frustrating, and it's also frustrating us as well, and that's why we are trying to help with all these kind of circumstances, like, talk closely with your FOMP consultants. And again, 16.7, 16.8 reports are subject to be improved. And by the time they'll be needed again, when we send out those DINC reports or any, issues with it, it should be corrected. And again, we appreciate all your feedback. Again, please just work closely again, and let's just prioritize for now, time being, what is needed to be done, and work from there. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. So it is a little after 4. I'm going to read these next 3 questions, and then we'll be done. So don't type any more questions, and I'm not going to do those. From Brianna, I missed the part on an updated timeline for end of year 3, or I'm sorry, end of year reporting. You can type the answer if this was already discussed. So there is no word on an extended deadline yet, but the CD is discussing it. Question 2 from Rebecca. I was hoping someone could provide me a status update on tickets 26.
Just stop right there. I already looked it up.
Okay.
It's in Angela's queue, and she's on vacation. So Rebecca, we see it. It didn't get lost. It's just we're backed up.
And Kim has a question for you, Joe. I know that you don't use the certified reports for monthly DINC, but doesn't the annual performance report?
Specifically the fall 1 census, and that's why it's very important to finish off the end of the year so that we can start with the fall and correct all the issues confounding with where a lot of the APR is based on your fall 1, with your LREs, with your early childhood setting, and your ethnicity. It's not based on the end of year.
Thanks. And then last is a comment from Stephanie from Power School. Power School allows you to assign the current teacher to the class for the purpose of taking attendance, etc., and then put the teacher of record in a CALPADS override field. And with that, our office hours for today has come to an end. We'll be back on Wednesday for the regular Wednesday Q&A. Thanks everyone for helping out with the answers, and thanks for the questions, you guys. We'll see you on Wednesday at 3 o'clock.